In this video, I'm going to share with you exactly what I learned about Jesus' original teachings on manifestation and karmic law. And I learned them firsthand experience in a 2-hour meditation during a 10-day silent retreat on the coast of Mexico in a town called Mazunte. So if you're interested in the true felt experience of Jesus' original teachings that are supported by his teachings in the Gospel of Luke, then you're in the right place. Stick around, and thank you for joining. So when a lot of people think about karmic law, they think that when they ask for something from the universe, if they behave in a certain way, then eventually they're going to get what they asked for. Or if they, if they do something that's wrong against whatever sort of religious beliefs that they hold or spiritual beliefs that they hold, then the universe will punish them or God will punish them, and there will be some negative consequence to those actions. And on a grand scale, this can be true. Actions that we take from early in our life sow seeds for what we reap later on. And this is something that Jesus taught as well. This is something that's taught in yogic traditions. But there's something much more profound that Jesus is getting at in the book of Luke that I became aware of in this meditation. So let me just set the stage for you. It's a 10-day silent retreat in Mazunte at a school called Hridaya Yoga. And each morning we meditate from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. And the meditation is on the heart center, which is really the portal to the soul, if you will. It's where the initial seed of our consciousness is planted when we're born. And that is where all of life's wonderment can be found, just holding presence on the heart center. So I was doing this for 90 minutes, about 90 minutes into a 2-hour meditation. And as you can imagine, the body starts to get a little sore. The mind can start to race and go into frustrated loops. When is this going to be over? I'm hungry. I don't want to be doing this anymore. And this was happening to me. I was starting to get a little bit agitated at about 90 minutes in. But I was an experienced meditator at this point. So I noticed what was happening to the mind. I noticed that my relationship with the experience was not a positive one. So I changed my stance. I switched from critiquing and focusing on what was negative or challenging about the experience, the pain in my knee, the pain in my back, and just the overall hunger that I felt. These were all negative, and they were generating more negative thoughts. I moved my focus away from those things, and I started to focus on the heart with this sense of sacredness, in wonderment, in awe. And then I started to give love out of the heart to the field of awareness that is all around us. And we think about that field of awareness, that is God, this all-pervasive presence that is everywhere and in all things. So I started giving love to God and really sending it out of my heart energetically. And after about 30 seconds, there was a switch. My mind went from racing to being completely quiet and at peace. The pain in my knee evaporated. At least I didn't notice it anymore. The pain in my back was gone, and I was no longer hungry. Instead, I found myself in this state of bliss, this state of complete just joy to be sitting there in silence in meditation on the coast of Mexico. And something clicked for me. I realized this is happening at all times. This is actually how karmic law works at its finest principle, because how things happen on the micro is how they happen on the macro. We tend to focus on the big events of life in our karmic law, in our manifestation, because we can see it quite clearly. If if you do some things that cause negative consequences, like if you steal something and then you go to jail, like there's a clear consequence there, right? But it's a little bit more subtle to notice how you've shifted your internal relationship with the world and how life mirrors that back to you on a moment-to-moment basis. But because I was here in meditation in silent, I was able to see this. And as soon as I started to give love to the field, instead of receiving back frustration and pain, which is what I was getting when I was internally complaining, when I gave love to the field, I got bliss and I got joy. And I absolutely loved the next 30 minutes of that meditation. It was one of the deepest meditations in my life. So the real truth of the karmic law is that if we're giving to the field at a subtle energetic level, whatever we're giving is what we're going to get back. So as we're calling things into our life, as we're calling in new relationships, new career opportunities or creative opportunities, it's less about asking for these things directly or only asking for them and just thinking that they should be done. And it's more about bringing attention to who we are being in each and every minute moment of our lives, so that we're putting out a positive vibration into the field, and that may then receive that back. And we may receive it back in the form of the things that we've been praying for, that we've been asking for, but we also may receive it back in a way that's even better, because God's going to match the vibrational wavelength that we're putting out, and we will receive the fruits of that vibration, whether it's one of frustration or one of beauty and love. It's really all about what we're giving first, and then we receive that back directly. And as I mentioned, this is something that Jesus taught directly. So we're going to look here at the book of Luke, one of my favorite gospels, and dive into exactly what Jesus is teaching here. And again, we're going to the Bible, as we always do here in the Call of the Heart, as the number one source on spiritual awakening, the greatest text ever written to help us live a more godly life. And we have Jesus as a model and as a guide for us, as a true representation of what it means to live that godly life. So we have the book of Luke here, and verse 37 is where we'll start. Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured back to you. Amen. The word of the Lord. So here, this oftentimes, is taken quite literally, and it does work that way as well, right? It's do not judge, and you will not be judged. That applies to judgment. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. That applies to the act of condemning. But what I'm speaking to here is actually the subtle level. So if you think about building a house, there's all of the bricks that go in. If you're building a brick house, there's a bunch of bricks that need to be laid in order to have the house. It's like the act of laying down each brick with intention and an awareness of the overall situation, the overall structure of the house that is being designed, that leads to the walls being sturdy and upright and formidable. The same is true here when we think about these things that Jesus is referencing. The judgment itself comes from the energetic state that we're giving to the world, and the perspective that we're giving to life is actually what leads to the judgment. So that mindset and the energy that lies behind the judgment, we can think of as the bricks, and then the judgment is the full house that gets built. So if we want to change what we're calling into our life, we got to start looking at the bricks. We don't just set up a whole new house and the house appears. We have to lay the house brick by brick. And that means giving something different to the world, one moment at a time, one brick at a time. So as you go about your days, the invitation is to start giving love out of your heart in whatever you're doing, in all things. And just notice, become present with God, become present with the field of awareness, and notice how life starts to reflect that love back to you, that generosity back to you, that gratitude back to you. As that starts to happen more and more and more, this positive, virtuous cycle starts where life just becomes blissful and joyful. And that really is the secret. We switch the bricks that we're laying so that we build a house in the future that is one that's filled with light, one that's filled with love, as opposed to a little shack on the edge of the darkness that is constantly getting blown over by wind and tornadoes and chaos. So I hope that metaphor lands for you. And I just want to say thank you so much for being here. Keep bringing awareness to where you are moment to moment and in the presence at which you're operating from, the vibration at which you're operating from. And as you do so, you begin to live in line just as Jesus did and to walk in the ways of God. Thank you so much for joining on the Call of the Heart. We have live videos coming every week in new long forms for you as well. I look forward to seeing you on our next video. Much love.